It's a pleasure to be here speaking about a topic that we both feel particularly passionate about. Being strong and courageous, navigate your way to PCI DSS 4.0 success. My name is Walid Barakat, and I serve as Senior Vice President for the Global Payments, Governance, Risk, and Compliance team. I've been part of the payments industry for 20 years in various roles, from application delivery to data center migration planning, and now I lead the GRC for our worldwide compliance responsibilities.
And I'm Todd Davenport. I serve as the Senior Director of our PCI compliance team. I have more than 30 years of experience in the information security and compliance areas in public and private sectors. The past 8 years have been focused on the financial industry, and the last 2.5 specifically for PCI DSS.
What we'll be speaking about today is based on our experiences of balancing the responsibility of meeting the challenges of maintaining compliance for an enterprise which truly spans the globe and is constantly evolving, while simultaneously guiding our teams through the PCI DSS 4.0 preparedness journey.
So for a little context, Global Payments, our name really does say it all. We have approximately 27,000 team members with physical locations in 40 countries. We provide issuing, acquiring, and merchant-related services in more than 100 countries, and we're trusted by more than 3 million companies, 1,300 financial institutions, and we've partnered with over 4,000 technical partners across 100 different industries. Now, where these numbers matter for this discussion comes to light in the actual variety and volume of PCI certifications which we are responsible for. Specifically, 50+ PCI DSS certifications around the world. So PCI 4.0 preparation journey is something that we've been leading at our organization going back to the very early stages of the first request for comments. Proactive preparation combined with ongoing, consistent, and effective tracking have been critical to our PCI program's success. So here's our agenda, and which we think you'll find informative. Being strong and courageous isn't referring to any physical strength. It's about the mental, emotional, and business acumen, strength, and courage you'll need to guide your organization on this journey. I'm confident you'll be presented with multiple opportunities along the way to demonstrate your strength and courage, to eliminate white noise, reduce friction, and recenter your teams to focus on the goals. Transitioning to PCI DSS 4.0 for a complex environment can be a disruptive event. We'll discuss techniques to limit the disruption to the business by minimizing the friction associated with the new PCI DSS version 4.0 control introductions. First, we'll talk about the disruption event like the release of a new standard like PCI DSS version 4.0 can cause for an organization. We'll discuss the importance of educating and motivating stakeholders about the challenges ahead and the path to success. We'll highlight how you can reduce the impact of that disruption by performing a targeted gap analysis. Next, we'll talk about the importance of creating momentum for your teams in the solution implementation by identifying, engaging, and empowering your subject matter experts. We'll emphasize the criticality of engaging with third-party suppliers and educating your subject matter experts on a product's capabilities and solution implementation complexity. We'll also discuss the benefits of fostering an environment of collaboration with the QSAs to align on the understanding and intent behind the new requirements and your projected control implementations. And then finally, we'll leave with some high points on the importance of leadership awareness and involvement.
Our intent of this presentation is truly to convey the opportunity that the new PCI DSS 4.0 standard introduces, which in our eyes is the chance to revamp, relaunch, and refine your PCI compliance program. The difference between a disruptive event and an opportunistic one is really how well it's prepared for, how well plans have been developed, how well teams have been engaged, and really how well expectations have been set. Over the years, some organizations may have become comfortable with the existing standard, They may have become accustomed to focus on driving evidence objectives versus truly questioning how the full intent of controls is achieved. Over time, the organizations have evolved their business processes and payment channels, and this new standard introduces the need to closely review the effectiveness of compliance processes to ensure that the requirement objectives are met. The opportunity now is to work with leadership to underscore the importance and benefit of prioritizing the compliance program truly in all areas of the business. An opportunity to understand how new cloud environments and new tool capabilities can benefit the effectiveness of ongoing business as usual compliance. The new standard opens the door to drive compliance education, awareness, and accountability to control owners who are truly on the front lines of compliance execution. Overall, the opportunity presented is the chance to ensure compliance is embedded throughout the organization, from new project introductions, application development cycles, and business acquisitions.
Okay, so let's get started with a quick refresher. So PCI DSS 4.0 is the first major standard update in nearly 10 years. That's a long time when you consider how quickly things change in the technology world. PCI DSS 4.0 had 4 primary goals that we want to make sure to capitalize and ensure are well implemented. Continue to meet the security needs of the payment industry. The theme here being that security practices must evolve as the threats change. Security as a continuous process. We all know that the bad guys never sleep. It's critical that we are continuously protecting payment data and looking for ways to improve. And flexibility for different methodologies. Adding flexibility allows more options to achieve a requirement's objective and supports payment technology innovation. The customized approach was specifically created to provide this flexibility. And then finally, enhanced validation methods. Identifying clear validation and reporting options supports transparency and granularity. Now, Global Payments is a participating organization, so this provided us with an opportunity to begin our journey by being involved in all 3 requests for comments. We conducted a thorough review of the suggested changes and submitted a high number of feedback comments and suggestions. But Walid, we didn't stop there.
No, we certainly didn't. We didn't stop by providing our compliance feedback. We knew we had to ensure our key compliance partners were fully engaged to understand the impact of the changes, to understand how their processes must evolve, and to understand where possible investment and resources were needed. We knew that implementing the new standard was going to be challenging due to the volume of updates, modifications, and requirement restructure. We knew that our team was going to have to ensure that our key partners were going to be able to truly understand it all. Thus far, our experience has been highly successful, primarily due to our engagement with our internal and external partners. By bringing in your internal control owners at the earliest opportunity to analyze the requirements, question expectations, and consider their own business-as-usual process updates, it creates a healthy and trusted discussion forum. Our GRC team, led by Todd, fostered these discussions by breaking up the PCI DSS 4.0 standard into digestible objectives, specifically tailored to the responsibilities of each stakeholder team. Engaging the internal control owners consistently to foster dialogue to drive understanding, reinforce accountability, and align on deliverable expectations. Aligning expectations and questioning how refined business-as-usual controls can be tracked and monitored for ongoing compliance. And finally, we questioned how custom-developed dashboarding, smart tool coverage tracking, can be considered to mature the compliance program even further. And we couldn't stop with our internal stakeholders. We partnered with our external assessors as well. We shared the progress, the plans, and the expectations with our QSAs for truly a partnered review to ensure we included their feedback, interpretation, and guidance. By partnering with your assessors well before an assessment, it reinforces your approach and aligns expectations for your 4.0 assessment deliverables. It allows you to seek out evidence consistency opportunities by way of templates where possible. And finally, it aligns understanding, which decreases assessment friction when the time comes.
So Our gap analysis started with our PCI team by reviewing the standard. The initial review helped identify areas where additional clarification was needed, or this could have been around language in the standard, the intent behind the requirement, and any specific areas where we believed that controls were either missing or not currently implemented in a manner that will be compliant with PCI DSS 4.0. I'd like to emphasize the importance of an ISA program to assist with reviewing the new standard and socializing the new requirements across the organization. We have nearly 100 ISAs across multiple business units, which helps ensure the new requirements are socialized and understood across the entire organization. Additionally, we define the root causes for each of the gaps. Identifying the root cause is critical to ensure the efficient elimination or mitigation for the identified gaps. And finally, the gap analysis should determine the level of effort needed to remove or mitigate the gap. Is this something that a simple configuration change or update to a process or policy or standard could fix? Or is it something that requires a project-level implementation that would involve multiple team members across multiple teams? Are there infrastructure changes, hardware, software investments needed, those types of things?
In order to be able to perform our gap analysis review, we first broke up the new requirements into two perspectives. First, a high-level overview to understand our baseline preparedness, and then a deeper dive examining the specific requirements per focus area. We first questioned where our existing business-as-usual compliance measures already addressed the intent of the new requirements. We initially determined that there are 27 of these new requirements which we already had fully in place as part of our business-as-usual activities. Secondly, we questioned where modification or updates to compliance processes were needed to achieve the new requirement intents. We determined that there were 37 instances of the new requirements which would likely require process updates, changes, updates to the existing processes, or technology investments. For a deeper dive view, we categorized each of the new requirements into responsibility areas to help determine appropriate participation from working groups and for determining levels of effort required to align to the new controls. As noted on the table in the purple section, we defined the focus areas of roles definition, authentication or access reviews, PAN data protection, risk analysis, security controls, and finally asset management. By calling out these specific focus areas, the corresponding internal control owner teams were more easily able to understand the scope of changes in their worlds. It created a tangible understanding of accountability and transparency to ensure they were rolling out plans to effectively address the new controls. And it reduced the apprehension by creating a manageable and defined workload that we could truly work to accomplish. Now, while the previous slide provided a high-level view of the requirements analysis, we knew we needed to have a means for tracking new requirement progress for each of our independent report on compliance entities. Recalling that our scope and span of 50-plus worldwide ROCs, we knew we needed to develop capabilities to ensure all assessments were independently reviewed and prepared for well in advance of the PCI 4.0 milestone dates. Again, we took a simple spreadsheet approach, which our GRC team coordinated with reviews with stakeholders to track their progress on a consistent basis. This snippet of the tool we used helped track each entity's progress for compliance with the new requirements. The sheet's simplicity really made it easy to foster productive discussions and to capture progress notes. We were able to filter as needed based on new requirement milestone dates and/or focus areas. We included simple red, amber, green status tracking, along with space for status comments. Compliance is rarely a black and white question, so we wanted to ensure we provided room to be able to address questions and clarifications and capture progress as it was developing. Recalling back to our partnership with our assessors, this sheet created a clear understanding for our readiness posture per ROC and allowed us to discuss the clarification points with our assessors. The transparency and partnership with our assessors throughout this process created a clear sense that we were in this together going through this PCI 4.0 preparedness journey.
So to drill down a little bit on the stakeholder engagement, stakeholder awareness is imperative. After the standard was released and following our initial gap analysis, we started to socialize the mere fact that a new standard had been released, along with the results of our analysis. We highlighted the differences. We were constantly reminding the team members of the key milestone dates and encouraging team members to review the standard, ask questions, and provide feedback. This is an area where our ISA program was critical. For requirements where you believe a higher level of effort is needed to remediate the gap, you should establish working groups which can focus on the requirement and identify the right administrative and/or technical controls. These working groups should take place on a recurring basis, include subject matter experts from across the organization, information security, encryption services, application development, information technology, legal, application developers, governance, risk, and compliance, as well as your suppliers. Now, this is one area where being strong and courageous will be particularly important, as you will encounter many different opinions and interpretations around the requirements, as well as the control selection and the implementation. Also, engaging with your QSA early in this process will establish working relationships and foster an environment of trust and collaboration. In many cases, we've found that our initial interpretation of a requirement and how it would be tested differed from that of the assessor. Now, we've been able to work through those items well in advance of the actual 4.0 assessment. An example of this would be the requirements where we determined that a higher level of effort would be needed. So in those areas, we were able to work with the teams and the QSA in creating separate working groups and then collaborating with several existing third-party service providers and our QSAs for well over a year. And we still haven't solved all of the challenges yet. Engaging your QSA early in this process will establish working relationships and foster an environment of trust and collaboration. In many cases, we found that our initial interpretation of a requirement and how it would be tested differed from that of the assessor. We've been able to work through those items well in advance of the actual 4.0 assessment.
And in closing, we want to call out the need to engage leadership to drive a collective preparedness compliance program. Undertaking an effort as large as PCI DSS 4.0 has to include leadership support for awareness and prioritization. Sharing the preparation plans at the outset and coming back to them with updates creates a comfort that the organization is truly moving in the right direction. The opportunity to loop back to leadership to discuss your progress truly keeps them engaged. Keeping them aware of the organization's journey lets them know that you need their ongoing support. Sharing updates helps them forecast where investment areas may be needed. And tracking readiness metrics truly conveys confidence that the milestones are well managed for the reputation of the organization. As we started this presentation, we noted the opportunity to revamp, refine, and relaunch your PCI compliance program. Use leadership engagement to ensure they understand how you're weaving those objectives into the program. We sincerely hope you found this presentation informative and helpful in considering your own PCI 4.0 preparedness journey. We believe our strategy upholds the PCI DSS objectives of continuing to meet evolving security needs, promoting security as a continuous process, providing flexibility for different methodologies, and enhancing validation methods. Thank you again for your time. Feel free to reach out to us for any additional questions. Thank you.